Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a book review of Bruised by Tanya Boteju. This book was released March 2021, so it is a new release, and I haven't really seen that many book reviews of it, at least on YouTube. While this book wasn't perfect for me, I do think that this book needs a little bit more attention, because I believe a lot of young teen readers would get a lot out of reading this book, and I hope that it can get a little more of the attention that this book deserves. So Bruised is about our main character, Daya. In the past year, I believe, her parents died in a car accident. Daya is a senior in high school at this point, and she's living with her aunt and uncle, and she's still trying to grieve the loss of her parents, and she feels a lot of personal guilt for their accident. So this is a hard-hitting contemporary, and Daya has a lot of internal work to do for herself, but it's not all hard-hitting contemporary. There's a lot of fun rom-com elements to it, and a big part of the plot is the romance between the main character and her love interest. This is a sapphic book, which means that there is a female-female relationship in it. At the beginning of the book, Daya thinks that she's straight, and she goes on a little bit of a journey discovering her sexuality and herself. Another big point of this novel is that Daya is Sri Lankan. Her parents immigrated from Sri Lanka to America before she was born or right after she was born. There are a lot of other people of color in this book, and then there are other people that identify as LGBTQI+. So there is a whole range of sexualities, genders, intersecting with people of color, so there is great diversity in this book. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Let's get into a little bit more of the plot. I've already discussed Daya's internal struggle, but by the cover you can guess that this book isn't just about her, being a high school senior. There are other trigger warnings for this book, but the main one I would probably say is self-harm. She doesn't cut herself, but she intentionally gets bruises and hurts herself to kind of feel pain. She does this in a multitude of different ways, but one of the big ones is that she uses skateboard as an outlet for her grief, intentionally wiping out and hurting herself on a skateboard. And at the beginning of this book, skateboarding doesn't seem to be filling that void for her anymore. It doesn't seem to be doing enough. One of her friends at the skateboard park introduces her to the world of roller derby, and from there Daya decides that she is going to join a roller derby team, and from there we meet the big cast of characters in the roller derby world as Daya gets entangled with this new sport. One of the big elements of this story is Daya entering this world of roller derby. Along the way she's discovering herself, she's going through her grief, but she's also kind of building a community around her and kind of learning what community support is and what it's like to rely on people for emotional support. And me being a queer person, I could really see how this would be so valuable to a young queer reader, just knowing that there is an emotional support system there to catch you, that there are communities out there that you can be a part of that will welcome you and help you. It was just really wholesome and really valuable. Daya is 18, 19, and through the story she has an array of different friends and emotional supports. She of course has her love interest, but then she has the roller derby team that's coming in who's a little bit older than her. At the beginning of the book she has her two friends, so you have slightly older mentor figures helping Daya being her friend. You have the slightly older teammates helping her out, being her friend, keeping her in check on the roller derby side of things. But she also has a lot of mentors that are a lot older than her as well. She of course has her guardians, her aunt and uncle, who Daya at first seems very hesitant to engage with because they're a little bit embarrassing to her, but she slowly becomes a family with them. There are also two older lesbian grandmas who were roller derby girls in their time, and they're just so cute and sweet. And then there are two older roller derby members who are a little bit older than middle age, I would say, and they're supporting Daya, helping teach her about roller derby. And while not all of the characters are queer, it really did feel like I was reading about a queer community in this book, and I think it's just so valuable to show queer relationships between younger and older people, especially non-sexual relationships. Of course, who you fall in love with is a really big part of queer communities, but I think it's really important to show other kinds of relationships that happen because of the queer community, mainly mentor relationships, friendships, especially just really wholesome relationships. I think is so important and so valuable, and it was just so nice to see Daya slowly let down her walls and rely on people. Daya is a person of color. There are other people of color there for her, and it was just really nice to see that support system. So the other big thing about this book, besides the roller derby aspect, is obviously Daya's own internal struggle. There are a lot of great moments of flashback, kind of recontextualizing Daya's relationship with her parents, showing how it wasn't always perfect, especially between her and her father. Daya was always expected to be very tough, very strong. That kind of letting her defenses down would only end up hurting her, and that kind of message that her father taught her kind of gets twisted with their accident. And then as she enters this roller derby team, there is a older mentor figure named Kat, who is like kind of the captain of the team, who is very much into that idea of being hard, being strong, not showing your softness, your weakness, while Daya's love interest is there to show that like softness doesn't necessarily mean weakness. There's different ways to go about life, to go about things. And so Daya's internal struggle with her grief, with her mourning, is really intersected with this idea of being tough, being strong, and it's kind of woven through these characters, you know, who show her different values, different types of strength, and show her that it's okay to rely on people. And while that message was a little bit straightforward at times, I really did appreciate it. I just really liked what this book was going for and how it was able to weave in Daya's own struggle with herself into like the other characters and what they were doing. This book is told in first person, which means we're directly in Daya's head. We're getting all of her thoughts and reflections. She's a very direct person. The writing style is pretty straightforward. And so while this book might not be for everybody, I can see the value in this kind of direct, straightforward, tell-all kind of situation. Again, that's not my personal taste. I would have rather it been a little bit less direct, but I think for other young teen readers who would really connect with Daya, that those admissions of feelings could be really valuable and really important. The other thing that's really interesting about this book is that at the end of the novel, Daya, you know, has made a lot of mistakes, and she kind of has to go on a little bit of an apology tour for the things that she's done. In my opinion, the conflict was kind of resolved a little bit easily, especially between her and her love interest. But again, I could really see the value in those last 30 to 50 pages. Daya's made a bunch of mistakes, but she's learned, she's grown, and she's forgiven ultimately, which is just really, really nice. Not all the relationships end up perfectly, but there's a hopefulness that things can be resolved and fixed, which I think is just a really great message for young readers, that it's okay to like be a little bit of a shithead sometimes, to make mistakes, to do the wrong thing, you know, but it's okay to ask for forgiveness and kind of let your walls down about that. This book is about Daya learning the value of teamwork, friendship, romance. It's about her letting down her walls and letting people in, and it's about her joining a community, especially a queer community. And I think that exploration of her finding her place in this world is just really, really important and really valuable. And I think a lot of young readers, especially queer readers, could just feel so at home in this book and so accepted by this book, and I think that is really, really valuable. There were so many scenes where Daya was getting mentored and I felt like a sort of giddiness because it just felt so comforting in a really, really wonderful way. And I just think a lot of younger teen readers will get a lot out of this. So yeah, that is my review of Bruised. I did give this a star rating, but I'm not really going to talk about that here. You can look on my Goodreads if you want more of my more critical opinions of this book. But I will say personally, overall, it was a really enjoyable read. I felt really at home in this book, and there were a lot of moments that were just really, really lovely to read about. But before I finish up this review, I do want to go back to my first point. I talked a lot about how this book is, you know, Daya dealing with her grief, with her mourning, with the loss of her parents, and I mentioned that there is self-harm in this book, and there is also implied domestic parental abuse. Daya has been a little bit emotionally abused by her father, and he put a lot of pressure on her, and then the main love interest and her sister, a storyline that implies that they had emotional, possibly physical parental abuse. And there are also mentions in passing of homophobia, transphobia, mostly transphobia. And I think for the most part, the way that these topics are handled in the book is really nuanced. And I think they're handled really responsibly in how they deal with the topics. But yeah, I would look at other reviews if you need more content trigger warnings, if you want another person's feedback on it, about how those issues were handled. But those are my thoughts on Bruised. I'm hoping that this review can help other people find this book, to get other people to pick this book up. There's a lot of value in this book, and I think a lot of people will get a lot out of it. And I'm hoping that it can find a home with some other young readers. But again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.